What is up, guys? Tired Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today, oh my goodness, the Destiny community is not happy. In fact, I haven't seen people this upset since year one, when the game was in absolute disarray. What exactly is going on? Well, it all has to do with a recent announcement and the 2020 Director's Cut, written by Bungie director Luke Smith. Due to that, it's got the Bungie forums looking like this: page after page after page of just nothing but negative posts. Now, the forums are not necessarily a breeding ground for positivity, let's just say, but this is still unusually bad. So we are going to be discussing what has gotten everyone so fired up, the pros and the cons of this change, which people are going to ignore as they go right down to the comment section, hit the caps lock, and go off on each other. Should be a fun one. So, it should be noted that the overall negativity has gone down because some of the complaints were about your artifact power level being active in Trials of Osiris, and Bungie has recently reversed that idea. They listened to the community and they thought, you know what, they're right on this, that's a bad idea, and now it's only going to be your gear power level that's going to matter in Trials of Osiris. So a lot of people out there are less upset than they were a few days ago, but still, the overwhelming issue of the negativity has been the changes to infusion. So currently, there's universal infusion in the sense that you can take a piece of gear from anywhere throughout Destiny 2's history, even a static rolled vanilla Destiny weapon, and you can infuse it up to the current maximum available power level and use it like you would any other, weapon or technically piece of armor too, in activities like Iron Banner and the raid, etc., that require a high power level. But starting seemingly with Season of the Worthy, which is arriving pretty soon, now gear is going to have a lifespan of apparently 9 to 15 months. And this is going to essentially mean that you can only infuse a piece of gear up to a certain predetermined power level. So, likely the stuff back from Forsaken, so the Mindbender's Ambition Shotgun, the Trust Hand Cannon, a lot of very powerful things likely coming with this next season. Those will be capped at a power level that means they aren't that usable in activities that require a high power level. So a lot of these posts are people saying, oh, Bungie, you're making us play how you want us to play. You're making all my hard work useless, all of our work thrown out the window. This is a terrible thing. Our weapons and armor that we've loved are going away. And I want to address that point because that is just not true at all. None of these things are going away. In fact, if you have an old piece of gear, if you've worked hard and you have grinded for that God Roll Mindbenders, you can still use it on all of the activities that don't require specifically a high power level. And that includes all of the Crucible, including competitive, and older activities like Strikes, Gambit, if you exclude being the invader per se, older activities like Menagerie and Reckoning, so it's certainly not like these weapons are disappearing. However, I will say in fairness, the activities that Bungie is certainly drawing your attention towards, the main one being Trials of Osiris, this big thing coming back, that is an activity these older weapons will not be good in. And old Mindbenders with a super low power level will put you at a distinct disadvantage in Trials, in Iron Banner, in potentially the raid activity, any other kind of highlight activity. That's where it's going to be impacted. So while I think some people are over-exaggerating with these weapons like seemingly being deleted out of your inventory, of course they're not going to be. They're still going to be super viable in quick play comp, all that stuff. There is a point to be made that these weapons that, only recently you thought would be part of your Trials loadouts, well, they're not going to be now. Now, it is important to address the fact, what is Bungie's reasoning for this? Why are they doing this at all if it's going to upset such a huge portion of the community? Well, Bungie cites power creep, saying that It's just impossible, these are their words, to keep introducing better and better weapons, otherwise you have the issue of power creep. And a lot of people either have never heard of the concept of power creep or don't think it's a thing. And it's simply the process of you're constantly trying to outdo yourself, you're constantly trying to make the newest stuff cool, and so everything is getting more and more and more powerful until it spirals out of control. And it can be difficult to visualize and understand this concept within Destiny. It's only been around Destiny 2 for a few years, but as someone who plays Magic the Gathering, I know, as if having a video game YouTube channel didn't make me nerdy enough, but Magic the Gathering has been around for years and years and years. I think it had its 25th anniversary not too long ago, and it has the most blatant and obvious examples of power creep. They're constantly releasing new cards, and they're constantly trying to one-up themselves and get people excited in the newest stuff. So when the game first started, Magic the Gathering, you would have creatures like a 2/2 creature would have downside because that was a good card. A 2/2 for 2 mana was insane. Then there was a 3/3 for 2 mana. And that was like such an amazing creature. Like, oh my, people were freaking out. No drawbacks for a 2 mana 3/3. And now a 2 mana 3/3, it's not even exciting. There's 2 mana 3/3s with crazy upside too. And even if you don't play Magic the Gathering, you can kind of understand that concept of just constantly getting better and better stuff. And eventually you get a state of the game where it's so much more powerful than you first started out. And we can somewhat see that happening within Destiny 2 with the introduction of the perks back from Season of the Drifter. You know, multi-kill clip is kind of just outright better than kill clip in a lot of places. Stuff like full court, stuff like firing line. Those perks are so ridiculously good that you're solely looking for weapons that have them, and weapons that don't, like, no one cares about. So that is creating a big problem. With that being said, there is a legitimate counterpoint saying, okay, power creep is a thing, but it's not like we've spiraled out of control. A lot of aspects of Destiny 2 are still weaker than they were at Destiny 1. I'm thinking, primary weapons, hand cannons are still 3 headshots, whereas in Destiny 1, there were 2 body shots, 1 headshot. So it's not like things are so much more powerful to a ridiculous state. And that is fair. And people have said, okay, well, you've introduced a bunch of new perks recently with Season of Dawn, and aside from Vorpal Weapon, they were all somewhat underwhelming. Could you not have tested this a little bit more and introduced some more interesting aspects to these perks? In fact, we've never really had a perk pass in Destiny 2. Bungie has never gone back and buffed some of the underperforming perks. To my knowledge, maybe I'm forgetting, one time they did, but there's a lot of perks like Pulse Monitor that have been bad like forever. So why not go back and retool and rebalance that? I think a lot of people in their minds are thinking, well, Bungie's not actually really trying that hard to introduce a bunch of cool new things. They act like they're at this impossible spot, like, oh, we can't introduce anything too insane or it'll ruin the game. But they keep introducing these like completely underperforming perks and weapons. Like, you can try a little bit harder, and I do definitely see that point. With that being said, the times that Bungie really innovated and really tried hard were kind of disastrous. And I'm thinking the pinnacle weapons. When the original Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl came out, if you were using anything other than those weapons, you were at a distinct disadvantage. When the Recluse came out, when the original Mountaintop came out, like in PvE and PvP, if you were not using those things, you were at a pretty distinct disadvantage. Now, it wasn't as bad with the Mountaintop maybe, but I don't think anything was more annoying than the Mountaintop for sure. At least on PC, definitely it was a problem. And again, in PvE, it was so overwhelmingly good. And so once you got those weapons, your desire to play anything else went down so dramatically. And that is a problem. It's hard to think of things in that way. Like, obviously, you want to log on and you want to get the best weapons, right? And I see this argument a lot if I'm saying something like the Devil's Ruin quest. It was too easy to get. A lot of people push back and say, no, you play the game too much. I only play the game 20 minutes a week, and I want to log on and get the weapon, and I just want it. And yeah, it makes sense from a perspective of someone obviously just wanting some good gear, but that mindset created Destiny 2 Vanilla, where there was no random rolls and everything was given to you. You could get raid loot if your clanmates did it. You didn't even need to do the raid, and it was this I want it now mentality. I don't want to have to actually work for it. And it turned out to be a complete disaster because it's hard for people to kind of conceptualize these meta things and saying, no, it's kind of good. This weapon is hard to get. It's annoying that you keep trying and not getting the god roll. Yes, that's super annoying and frustrating, but the point is that you're still playing the game every day trying to get this. You need to have aspirational content. And again, if you're a very casual player and you're just surface level trying to get, the loot in the game, that can fly over people's heads, and so it's hard to sometimes determine what is right for the game. Because before Destiny 2, guys, like we all know Destiny 2 launch did not work. Player base plummeted. It was a disaster. But before Destiny 2, there was constant posts on the Reddit of people complaining, I have played X Crucible games and I still haven't gotten the God roll IS Luna. I still haven't gotten this. I still haven't gotten that. These random rolls are ridiculous. They're too hard. So it's totally understandable that Bungie completely did away with random rolls. But again, people weren't thinking of the actual impact of doing that. They weren't thinking of the health of the game. They're just thinking of what they wanted right then and there. And it was a disaster. So I do think that overall this change to infusion could be a good thing. We always complain about the meta getting stale, but now Bungie is doing perhaps the biggest thing to shake up the meta that we've ever seen, and we're complaining about that. But I do understand, however, people's points of especially the fact that this came out of nowhere, and especially the fact that a lot of the gear in the game that is getting impacted by this change is still readily available. The quest to go and get the Luna's Howl is you can do it right now. People are doing it right now. It's not easy. It's not a walk in the park. It's quite a process to get. And Bungie's going to allow that weapon potentially to just not be infeasible next season. So I do think the one pretty unexcusable thing on Bungie's part, the thing that they really did wrong, and I do feel for the people who are upset in the sense that they gave no warning. They couldn't have told us that they were thinking of doing this earlier. They couldn't have given some warning of saying, hey, maybe don't farm the entire weekend for the Mindbenders because you're not going to be able to use it in pinnacle activities. A little bit of warning would have gone a long way because, me personally, I was going after a God Roll Trust literally the week before because I was playing Menagerie also for the swords, which are up in the air too. Will the Season of Opulence swords be viable next season? I don't even know. So that is a very annoying thing that they sprung this on us only a couple weeks before this massive change is incoming. So people are in the middle of doing these quests, people in the middle of farming only to find out that that was all pointless. Bungie should have definitely handled that aspect better, and that is somewhere I will not budge. That I do feel for people upset in that regard for sure. For all of the doom and gloomers, this happened before in Destiny 1 with the Taken King expansion, often looked at as the thing that single-handedly saved Destiny 1. When that expansion hit, all of the previous year 1 weapons were uninfusable up to any sort of power level that mattered. It was just the new stuff. And then over the course of time, they kept reintroducing new stuff. They would have an LDR, a sniper rifle from year 1. They would reintroduce it into a certain loot pool, and then you can infuse it up to the proper light levels. But that expansion literally hit the reset button for the game. And so it's surprising that we've already gone through something like this, but it was more sudden and more extreme. Right now, again, there's a lot of activities you can still use these weapons in, and there's going to be lifespans. With the Taken King, it came out everything before, you are not using it in any relevant activity. Too bad, except for Crucible. That's one exception. So that was, again, pretty intense, and yet people still look back at the Taken King as this amazing expansion that improved the game. So maybe we're going to end up with a scenario similar to that, saying that, hey, we got a lot of this weapon balance bad before, and we can introduce some of the famous weapons from year 1 and year 2. We can reintroduce it later in the loot pool and give it a new lifespan. But this kind of change isn't unprecedented, and it did have some positive effects when it happened in Destiny 1. I will offer the point, however, what about Pinnacles? Pinnacles are in a weird spot. They take a ton of time to get. They're very unique. They're almost exotic. What are those gonna do? Because you can still do those pretty substantial quests, are Bungie gonna put a warning on those quests? Or potentially maybe make Pinnacles like the one exceptions similar to exotics, that if you get those, you can infuse them regardless. But I think with even me saying that, a lot of people out there would say, no, I'm glad I'm not going to have to see any more, Luna's Howls, any more recluses. This is a good thing. But here's where I'm going to end it. Guys, importantly, if you can take one thing away from this, it's that this is a bold move. This could be a very good thing, or this could be kind of an annoying thing, and all your weapons, aren't usable in these certain activities, and people are generally unhappy. But guess what? This can be reversed. If this is a bad move, just like the artifact power, hopefully Bungie can look at this and say, you know what? We're changing this. We're going back. We tried it, and it didn't work out. I'm okay with that. A lot of people out there don't want Bungie to try anything innovative or exciting or different, or try a bold strategy to fix a problem. This is a bold strategy. This is the kind of thing that we should be welcoming. And if you think this is going to be a terrible idea, well, just let it happen, see what happens, and if it is a terrible idea, by all means, call Bungie on it, and hopefully they can fix it. But I'm okay with taking a chance, and if it doesn't work out, then reversing it, rather than never trying anything in the first place, honestly. And so guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.